Woohoo! All
What up,
right.
Okay, so
homies?
I need to like I'm not even set up. I'm not even prepped. Like I need to change my
Perfect.
mind. I
That's
need
all
to.
right. That's fantastic.
This is
Well,
where we're at.
welcome everyone to the
Hey, we are
BitBrain.
welcoming already. Just give me like a camera.
Don't worry,
Welcome
we'll get
everyone
into
to
the
the
intro.
BitBrain podcast. Right. As you can tell, we don't have our shit together yet.
Yeah. We're just setting it up live.
Yeah.
I'm actually trying to get my Bluetooth
We'll
headphones
do
going.
it live. We'll do it live.
Do it live, baby.
Do it
Do it live.
live. Uh, let's get this
So,
Bluetooth going.
so VJ, get your shit together there. I mean, if we're gonna look at the side of your face, that's okay. We don't mind that either.
Uh,
But so yeah, well let's kick things off while VJ's organizing his stuff. So want to introduce everybody, which is Mr. Michael Unreal Johnson or Janssen, for you Swedes out there, Canadian Swedes, right? He's taking looks like he's getting a little bit of a. What are you breaking your fast right now? You said.
oh no, this is the beginning, first thing I'm eating today.
Yeah, you're breaking your fast, right?
Oh, is
So
that how it works? It's broken no matter what.
you officially broke the fast.
Mm-hmm.
So that's Mr. Michael Unreal Johnson, OG number one, in crypto. Has been in crypto forever. We'll get into the whole story here and how we all connected and met and all that stuff. Then we got Mariano, comrade Mariano there, the blockchain whippersnapper. Definitely the youngest of all four of us, that's for sure. And we have VJ, the bearded brain
Whoop whoop.
who finally got his shit together. He's got his he's notoriously a little bit late and coming in a little hot. Well, I like that shirt, VJ. You got pink going on here, man. It's
It's
kind of
not pink, it's salmon.
yeah, contrast some of your books in the back, dude. I don't know if you did that intentionally, but it's looking pretty awesome. And then myself, Dominic Robbie, former co-founder of WCC World CryptoCon, and enlightened by these three fine folk here. So I'm just here to make sure that I don't get fined, right? So excited to be here, and so guys, this is pretty cool that we're doing this. I'm so excited. You know, Mariano's apparently loves the hat. That this is a new thing, by the way, Mariano. I've never really seen you bust this thing out, so I feel like we're honored to be here for it. So guys, there's a lot of stuff going on in the crypto space right now, but before we go into that, let's maybe talk about how we all connected and where our crypto journey started. So Johnson, if you wouldn't mind going first after you finish, masticating on your meal there. Why don't you
I'm
share
almost
with
done.
us
I'm almost done.
how you
Hey,
how you
Mariano, how
guys.
about you take over while
There you
I
go,
while
Mariano. Go for it, brother.
All right, 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 right. What do you
youngest
guys want
first.
to
Youngest
At the
first.
ripe old age of 12.
at the right? So it wasn't at the ripe age of 12. It was more like 13 or 14. I was by pure chance, essentially. I got into crypto, maybe by accident, maybe by fortune. I am originally from Argentina, and now I'm living between Argentina and San Francisco. And in Argentina, we have a huge problem, which is we have a lot of inflation. We are like number one in the world in that subject. In fact, this year, approximately, we expect to have 155% inflation this year alone. And it has never gotten this bad, but it was always been like a lot of inflation. And I remember essentially like my parents, whenever they received their salary, they run to buy like foreign currency, right? Because otherwise their money would depreciate in value. And one day essentially, while I was browsing on the internet, I found this idea of Bitcoin, essentially, right? That the main argument for Bitcoin is that it's the anti-inflation coin because there's only going to be 21 million of them that are going to ever be minted. And essentially that like made me like I couldn't fully understand it, but like it made me fall in love with that idea, which is like, oh, there's actually like a monetary system or a something system that can be like used and that governments cannot just print more of that. And essentially that kickstarted my journey in the crypto world, and a lot of things happened later. I again, by fortune or by chance, I participated in the Ethereum ICO. Then I did a decentralized application in 2019, and then we went on and we went on. But that's essentially the crypto story.
Wow. And since then, you've what, the Draper University, you've
Yes, yeah. So we created a startup. We created a startup that was essentially the first marketplace to commercialize software licenses as NFTs. And we kicked off with that. We did the Draper University program. Then I became an ambassador of that. We got invested by a grant of 15, 17. Like many other funds showed interest in that. And yeah, that's essentially what we're doing. Always at the edge of innovation with Web3. And that's what we are here to talk about in the podcast.
Amen.
Mariano, didn't you create like a soccer app back in the day too?
Yeah. So essentially, we created something called CryptoCap.io, and it was a very fun experiment. So in Argentina, we're famous for two things, essentially, inflation and soccer, right? Because we're the best in the world on both of these things. And I remember that for 2018, there is a traditional like game here in Argentina, which is called Prode. So Prode, what you do essentially is that you and your friends get together. Each one essentially imagines the outcome of the soccer matches of the World Championship. At that time was the Russia World Championship, right? And all of you put like a little bit of money into like a pool, and the one that has like the most accurate like score essentially wins the prize pool. So we thought of taking that into the blockchain, and what we did was a very fun idea where we created these like tickets as an NFT. We did an ERC721 token, and you could make your predictions on this ticket, right? And the cool stuff was that not only it allowed anyone in the world to participate in, but like let's say that the middle of the tournament is going on, right? And with your ticket, you can see yourself that with the score that you have now, which is the predictions that you filled, you're maybe in the top 100% tickets, right? That got sold, and you will get a prize if at the end of the tournament you're still in that position. So what we did is we allowed a function for you to sell that ticket essentially. Like if you want to secure some gains and you don't want to like risk the rest, you could sell it to somebody else that is willing to buy it, and in a way like hedge your position like that. And it was a lot of fun. So yeah,
Dominic, maybe now is when you jump in as a moderator.
Well, I kind of like. I actually haven't heard the story.
Loving the story.
So I'm pretty enthralled by this. Pretty enthralled. So finish your thought on this, Mariano. And then
I'll finish. Yeah, I don't want to go too long with that. But yeah, we created like a marketplace essentially for predictions. And after the World Championship, we couldn't like do it with another idea. The idea was to create like a whole decentralized protocol for like future predictions. Something what is poly market today, for example. We thought about it first. But one thing that I remember that was very fun is that in 2018, we participated into like, was like a blockchain games like challenge or conference or competition. I don't remember what exactly it was, right? But I remember that, we pitched, we presented and all that stuff, and we came in second. And the game that came in first was Axie Infinity. That at that time, nobody knew them. And
what year was this? Mariano, what year was this?
2018.
Damn, dude. That's awesome. That's incredible. So number 2, right behind Axie.
Number 2, yeah, and Axie was pretty cool. Like I think they deserved to win, but yeah, it was fun because at that time it wasn't that big, right? They didn't even do the running network or anything like that, and then they exploded.
That is wild. All right, Michael, you're next. Are you done masticating your lunch there?
Yeah, I'm done. I'm all finished. I'm ready to go.
All right, unreal. So what started your journey in crypto?
Yeah, for me, I just started the space as an artist. So I was just sort of doing marketing strategy and stuff for people. And I was at a poker game, and my 2 most conspiracy driven friends were telling me about this thing called Bitcoin, and I was like, what are these guys talking about? And being as open-minded as I am, I decided to go home and start reading the white paper for Bitcoin and starting to understand it more. And honestly, right when I got through that, I was like, this makes sense to me. And I think that has to do with some of my priming from university, taking business and society and learning about all the corruption and issues with our system. So when I saw this, I'm like, this has hope. This is an answer. Let's see where it goes. So, given my career as a freelance artist, I just had free time on my hands. I didn't have a client at the time. I was able to put time aside and just go deeper into this thing. And after a few days, I was all in. Unfortunately, I had no money, so all in didn't really mean much to me at the time. But I started to I actually asked a friend for a loan, and he was generous enough to give me that loan. He was one of the first people to get a investment from Bitfinex. They were handing out checks, and he got 10 Bitcoins for his company. Actually, no, he got 100 Bitcoins for his company at the time. And he was generous enough to lend me 10 of those Bitcoins. That was a bit of a process. I started out by saying like, hey man, you told me about that thing at poker. Like, it was the same guy at poker who mentioned it. I'm like, you want to send me a Bitcoin? I'll pay you back later. And he said, as long as you pay me back in Bitcoin. He's thinking we're going to the moon. And this is at the end of 2013. When we were peaking, effectively the first mini bull market. Bitcoin was peaking at around $1,000, and so he was willing to give me $1,000, no problem, just pay me back in Bitcoin. And that got, as soon as it hit my wallet, that got my gears turning. I was like, this is crazy. And I basically like hit him back, and I asked him for more. I asked him for 5. I took a shower, and then I asked him for 5 more, and he gave me 10 Bitcoins. He was willing to do that for me. And so that propelled my journey. I put it all into Namecoin and Litecoin, and they all crashed 80% after that. And I was like, man, what do you do with this space? And there was nothing to do back then, but I was an artist. So I decided to start to understand it more. I actually created an explainer video for a company called Namecoin, which was the second cryptocurrency to ever exist after Bitcoin, even though many people think it was Litecoin. I made it in like a really public way. I started to write the script on Reddit. And the reason I did that is because I didn't know anything about the space. I didn't know anything about blockchain. I was still learning. So I figured if I shared what I was doing, people would be able to fact check me. So once I got it out there, people were on it like flies. I started really meeting all these different interesting characters in the space. And once I had a script together, I created the animation. Before I even finished the animation, because I made it publicly, I had people in Reddit DMing me, asking like from Storage and from BitShares and from all these old companies, hitting me up in my DM saying like, hey, we see that you're making a video. Can you make us one? And I never even made a video before that. I just knew that I could from the foundational skills I had. I understood keyframes. I understood how to use Photoshop and Illustrator. And I saw the Bitcoin, like the old school alpaca Bitcoin video. If any of you have seen that animation. And I'm like, after watching it, I'm like, I think I could do one of those.
That's the one of we use coins, right?
Yeah, we use coins. Exactly. So I tried to make it in the style of that. And then 6 to 8 weeks later, I had this video, and I had clients to make new videos, and they were all, and even though I made the Namecoin one for free, it was just for myself. All these other companies were offering me like their native coin. So I started to get paid. Even IOCoin was another one, who are still around, even though not making a big splash, unfortunately. But they paid me like, $3,000 in value of their coin. I ended up like holding these coins for a very long time, and started seeing 100x's. Honestly, one of them 800x'd for me. And that gave me a bankroll. And I started to learn how to trade. I remember one of my friends sitting me down, and I'm going like, he's like, oh, you got to get on this exchange. You can trade coins there. And I'm like, okay. And he's showing me, oh man, what was it called? It was BTCE at the time, which turned into WEX, which turned into like a scam by the Russians. The Russians rugged us. So thanks, Mariano.
Yeah, no kidding.
With the hat over there. I went into Bitfinex, and my buddy was just sharing with me, what a candle is, how the open, the close, the time frames, and that was really the start to my trading journey. Fast forwarding a bunch, I ended up going from starving artist to making about $10 million by the end of 2017. And as part of that journey, and Mariano can speak to this too, but the two of us got into and we didn't know each other, but the two of us got into the Ethereum ICO at launch. So that was really exciting. I remember after seeing Vitalik talk in Toronto, I was like, I'm betting my money on whatever this guy's doing. And all I had was $1,000 at the time. So I put that in, and that worked out, of course.
Let's talk about what Ethereum was at the time. It was what, 30 cents, and this is around circa 2014, right?
32 cents, something
32
like that
cents.
is what they sold at.
Yeah.
And it sounded really interesting. It sounded like a big innovation, and I'm a big team guy. So after seeing Vitalik, I was just like, let's fucking go. So yeah, I ended up after making that 10 mil, just like a lot of people, I completely ate shit and lost it all in the market downturn. I probably my low was probably like $50,000 from 10 million.
10 million to 50 grand.
Yeah, to 50 grand. And then, you keep your nose to the grindstone. I somehow did it again. And I hit my old highs during this past cycle. And I landed on a slightly higher cloud. And I think we'll leave it at that.
Yeah.
For my intro.
God, that's awesome to hear, Michael. And also, I think one other thing that bears mentioning is that your roommate at the time was best friends with co-founder of Ethereum, Anthony.
Yeah.
Is that right?
He wasn't my roommate until later, but he made buddies with Anthony Diorio. We were partying in like the underground clubs with Anthony, a decade before Ethereum existed. It sucks that my friend missed that boat, even though he was so close to him. I wasn't as close to Anthony, but I hung out with him a handful of times. And when I found out he was like all of a sudden the king of Ethereum in Toronto, that blew my mind. He actually sold me the ticket to the conference that I saw Vitalik at for the first time. I remember going back and forth with him on the email, and we did a direct, like I paid him directly to his wallet. He sent me the ticket, and that conference changed my life.
That's insane. And when was that? That was before Ethereum's ICO, right?
That was right before. Yeah,
right
that must have been in 2015, if memory serves.
Okay,
yeah,
got it. Amazing. So okay, and then you were instrumental, as a segue, in VJ getting involved in crypto as well. So kind of VJ, why don't you kind of share your story and then how you and Michael connected? I think that's important.
Yeah. So went to Singularity University and was looking at different technologies that were coming out when Bitcoin launched. The original white paper came around 2000, end of 2009, beginning of 2010. Came across Bitcoin more from an intellectual curiosity to understand what this new technology is. Read the white paper and kind of dismissed it. I initially thought, this is a scam. This is a Ponzi scheme, right? How can this have value? It can only have value if others are paying more. And kind of dismissed it. Fast forward a couple of years later, I was living at Seattle at the time, and I was moving from Seattle to Bay Area, and was selling our all the furniture, office furniture, and other things, and put an ad on one of the platforms to sell my desk. And this fellow came to buy the desk, and he said he wants to pay in Bitcoin. I was not for it. It was like $325 or so, and I said no. But 2 weeks later, now I'm about to leave Seattle, my desk still hasn't sold, and this guy reached out again and said, "Hey, are you still selling the desk?" And I was like, "Okay, pay me in Bitcoin," and then I just wanted to get it off of my table, so to speak. So I got 27 Bitcoin at $12, $325 roughly. This was around 2012 or so when I first got it. And I was involved in another startup and was mainly focused on it. Wasn't really focused on what is happening in the crypto space. And when Bitcoin hit $1,000, I was like, hey, no, I have all this Bitcoin that is sitting around. And I wanted to get a car at the time. Prius was the cool car to get for people who are environmentally conscious. So I sold 22 Bitcoin and paid cash for buying the Prius. But that process was very instrumental. And then 2016, the startup that I was working at, we had to shut it down. It was a very public failure. And I was thinking of figuring out what is the next thing that I want to do. In the meantime, saw was connecting with Michael. He was involved in helping me with the other startup that we were doing, and was talking about, hey, look into investing into Bitcoin. And this was right around 2016 or so, when the second halvening happened, right? Was it the first halvening or the second halvening? The first halvening. The second halvening, yeah, that happened. And there was a lot of excitement around it, and started doing some arbitrage trading between the US market and the Indian market, right? There was like a 12, 15, 20% premium between the US market and Indian market, and was doing that. And in the process found that there was not an easy way to keep track of all your trades and transactions. So started doing a software, an enterprise grade software for companies to be able to keep track of all the crypto assets. And our thesis was that these crypto assets is going to be on balance sheet of pretty much every company, not as an investment or as a speculation, but more as a way for being able to operate their business. Right? They need to hold Ethereum to be able to run smart contracts. They need to be able to hold Filecoin to store these assets, and many such different assets are needed to be able to run their normal day-to-day operation. That was our thesis, and we started that. That got later on acquired by Ernst & Young. And if we have time later on, can talk about a side story around the initial process when I was thinking about starting this software for doing tax and accounting for crypto. And that was a great learning experience, got like different exposure to the assets. I'm more of an entrepreneur, and now manage a digital asset fund focused on investing in digital tokens.
And that's an SEC regulated fund, right, BJ?
It's an SEC exempt fund for, we had to register with the FINRA and SEC for being able to manage digital assets.
Excellent. And also founded an education company, Redwoods, dedicated to really, accelerating people's understanding of blockchain, this technology, correct?
Yeah, no, people are curious to learn about it, and this technology is not very easy to understand because of a couple of different factors. One, it's combines 6 different areas of computer science, everything from networking to distributed computing to economics, finance. So it involves a lot of different areas within computer science, and even outside of computer science, these are like completely different areas. So it's super difficult to understand what this is. Second, it challenges our fundamental notion of what is money. We just never questioned what is money. We just, from the time we were kids, like parents give us money and we just take that money and, we just go buy a candy or things with it. And it challenges the very notion of what is money. And most people haven't stopped to think about what is money. And third is that the usability for being able to use it also is not very easy. Have a master's degree in computer science and setting up some of these wallets, it's not an easy process, right? If you make a mistake, you lose all your funds just because you don't know how to install these wallets and keep these private passwords secure.
Absolutely. We can definitely dive into some more thorough threads on that, either maybe on this iteration or another subsequent podcast. But
and BJ, we were working together since 2012, 2013, something like that.
Yeah, I think we started working together in 2013 or 2014. Yeah, so we've known each other for 10 years now.
Wow. You guys are like bros. You guys got a bromance going on?
Oh yeah, big time.
Yeah.
We take long walks on the beach.
BJ, when you met Michael, did he have hair?
When I met Michael in person, he did not have hair, but when I originally saw him, he had hair. And yes, I can. Yeah.
A bear market.
We did.
Hopefully there's a
market.
picture somewhere that we can circulate around that.
Oh, we'll work on that.
I'd love that.
I had
So,
as Michael was saying, we did take a long walk on the beach this morning, and Michael is below me, metaphorically speaking and literally speaking, because like I'm on the 5th floor and he's on the 4th floor. Michael.
He's visiting the PR, right?
Yeah, he's in Puerto Rico.
Yeah, I know. I have the worst camera quality out of the 4 of us, but that's because I'm traveling on the laptop. But VJ, you should turn off your autofocus on that lens so that it stops going in and out. It keeps making you blurry every 3 minutes. You know the switch on the lens. Get it.
All right, let's do that. So we'll come back to that. But VJ, thank you for sharing that, Michael, as well, and Mariano. So my experience into the blockchain space and a crypto was I was in a career that had nothing to do with crypto, with technology, with anything. I was actually a pharmacist. And then I had a friend of mine who lived out here in Phoenix, which is where I live. And we geeked out on like Austrian economics for some reason. Like we were like, found it interesting, the contrast between Austrian economics and Keynesian economics and all this kind of stuff. So like hard money, gold, all those things were kind of underpinnings of our belief system around that. And then fast forward to like 2012, and he tells me about Bitcoin. And I just remember the price being somewhere around $30 at the time. And he tried to explain it to me to the point where I could understand it. For some reason, it just completely went over my head. And for a lot of people, it did, obviously, especially in those days. But I completely ignored it. And, obviously, a big fatal mistake monetarily that I made. Fast forward 2 years. So we're talking 2014. I have a second friend approach me who I really, really trusted. And he's telling me all about Bitcoin. He had just got back from a conference, and he's like, dude, you have to put your time and attention into this. You have to understand it. You have to get some. And he had kind of reorganized his life. He was an entrepreneur as well, but he had reorganized his life, and he started working with a gentleman by the name of Dan Larimer. And so Dan had created a project called BitShares. And so he was working with Dan in doing some marketing for BitShares, because much of the problems were back then, and kind of still are, is that you're taking an extraordinarily technical, complex subject and trying to reduce it down into language that a layperson can understand. And so that was kind of what he was tasked with. And in the meantime, I put him on the phone with my first friend, and they just talked circles around me. But at what came out of that conversation was, okay, I need to go buy some Bitcoin. And so had found some site here in Phoenix where you could meet up with someone and actually do a transaction kind of without an exchange. And so it was called, I think it was called Local Bitcoins at the time. I don't even know if Local Bitcoins is actually in operation anymore, but nevertheless, did that, handed over some cash, and waited for the transaction to confirm on my laptop and his laptop, sitting in a McDonald's in North Scottsdale. And it was the most surreal experience of my life. I felt like I was doing a drug deal, being a pharmacist, that's kind of, not supposed to do that. So, so it was pretty surreal. I think I bought it around $600. I remember Dan Larimer making a comment shortly thereafter saying proof of work is bullshit and delegated proof of stake is where it's at. And the price of Bitcoin completely collapsed like 70-80% over the next month. And so just like you, Michael, bought it at a Pico high, and watched it, drop 60-70-80% within a month. And so at that point, I kind of largely ignored everything again. I'm like, one more failed investment, gonna forget about it. And then about 2.5 years go by, and I'm on Facebook, and my Facebook feed is blowing up. It's Bitcoin this, it's Bitcoin that, it's, everyone's all the rage talking about it, which is pretty part and parcel of what happens in a bull market, as we know. And so I'm like, I think I have some of that. So I called up my friend and I go, hey, where is my Bitcoin? He's like, you're gonna have to look. It's a wallet on your laptop. And so I had to like find this. And then I bought one of the shit coins. I bought, you know, a token back then, not just Bitcoin. There was another shit, it was BitShares. And if BitShares had gone from like 2 cents or maybe 2 cents to like 32 cents and then back to 2 cents. So I made, just like you, Michael, I made a lot of money in it and then lost a lot of money in it. And so anyways, I found it. But at that point, I was like, okay, Bitcoin was now at like $2,300. I'd heard about it at $30. I purchased it at $600, and then it was at $2,300. And I still didn't know any more about it from when I first heard about it at $30. So that needed to change. So I went in this kind of crusade of trying to understand the technology, trying to understand the currency, trying to understand the use case, all that stuff. So 10 minutes a day turned it very quickly into an hour a day to 2 hours a day to 3 hours a day, to the point where it just consumed my life. So by the middle to the end of 2017, I realized that there was no greater financial opportunity in my lifetime than it was to play full out in this space. So I completely reorganized my professional career, went to a business partner of mine, and we were in the medical field. And I said, listen, we are in the wrong industry. We need to be doing something inside this industry. And I don't know what, but we need to do something. And so none of us had any particular experience in producing conferences, but we reasoned that, hey, the billionaires and trillionaires of tomorrow, the Bill Gates of tomorrow, the Steve Jobs of tomorrow, you know, the Elon Musk of tomorrow are going to come from this space. They're going to come from this industry. And so what better way to get inside access to many of those luminaries of the future than to host conferences and attract them to us? And so we also looked at all the conferences that were going on around that time. And a lot of them were by and large just kind of like, you know, nerdy circle jerks, you know, a bunch of developers getting together and just kind of like just nerding out on the technology. But for the layperson, wasn't able to really connect to that. And so how could we really attract that and do that? Well, we reasoned that, hey, let's do something in Vegas, at a real big, nice hotel, and make it sexy, do lots of like VIP events, do lots of like fun stuff. So we actually created the first Bitcoin poker tournament where we brought poker stars in, since a lot of people who got interested in crypto early were also interested in poker. Right. So we brought in some poker stars, we brought in some Bitcoin and blockchain stars, and we played a game, on the strip at the Aria. And then the prize pool was all in Bitcoin. And so we were the first ones to really do something like that, create a Vegas blockchain week, and, you know, hosted some of the top luminaries in the space. You got, you know, Tim and Adam Draper, you know, Brock Pierce, you know, Charlie Lee with Litecoin. You mentioned Litecoin, Michael. So all those guys, Charles Hoskinson, everybody. And so, and
I met Charlie Lee at your conference. It was awesome. Yeah,
it was. Yeah, exactly. Right. Yeah. So, and that's where we met, right? Where, you know, right. An ex of mine comes up and was talking to you for an inordinate amount of time. And I'm like, who's this cat? Right. I got to make sure he's not encroaching on my girl. so anyways, Michael and I then hit it off. Michael introduces me to VJ, and then the rest is history. So I think that should give the viewer, the audience, an idea of like, all right, these guys here, why should I even listen to these guys? Well, we've all been in this space for many, many years. We're multi-cyclers, you might call us, right? You know, generally you kind of look at your history inside this space as how many crypto cycles have you been through, whether, you know, it's a cycle being defined as a bear and a bull cycle, a bear and a bull market. And we've all been through it, more than one of these. So we can kind of, you know, being in a bear market right now, we've seen this show before. Now the narrative is different every single time, but the effect is generally the same, right? You have a depression in price. So we topped out at in November of 21. And since then it's really been down only ever since. And we've seen some recent heartbeats lately with Bitcoin breaking above 30,000, but it's been somewhat unceremonious, right? I mean, it's not catching the headlines. There's a small group of us that are still paying attention, but largely all the grifters and all the retail and all those people kind of have left, and they'll come back. But they essentially
I wonder where they go.
Yeah, exactly. Right. They just take their attention and they go off to doing something else. So what I'd like to do is, maybe one by one, get your guys' opinion on what do you think is the current state of the market, and where are we at? Maybe where do you see the market evolving over the next few months? And Michael, why don't you go first?
Yeah, always bullish. I'm not wearing my always bullish shirt, but I'm feeling pretty good. We like you said, been seeing a few heartbeats, but I think a lot of the bad news has been coming out where like the exchanges have been shutting down, and the SEC is going after Binance and some other companies, and the regulation is looming, and there's so much uncertainty. And I think that's why we haven't seen any meaningful price moves yet. But we've definitely been seeing the builders coming out of the woodwork and showing us what they've got. And I'm really optimistic, like moving forward. Yeah. I think in a year from now we'll really be sitting in a good place.
Got it. Okay, so you don't think this is a multi-year period where we're going to see depressed prices and pretty much stay low here as a nadir? Like you feel that within the next year that we can,
usually the halvening kicks off the next cycle, and we should be seeing the halvening around April of next year. And I really think that once we get over that hump, that we're going to see the mainstream start paying attention again in a meaningful way.
Do you think that there has to be a seminal moment, like there needs to be something that kind of kicks it off, or do you think it just kind of happens organically, right? All of a sudden there's a shift, and does the macro really play into that for you? Like, do you evaluate that as a consideration? Like, US going into a recession, maybe we already are in one. And also, that being said, the crypto hasn't necessarily been, we've had Bitcoin since 2008, 2009. We've never really had a recession in the entire lifetime of Bitcoin. So this time is different, right? So do you factor that into your consideration there?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely factor it in. We can't control macro conditions. If we truly do hit a recession, then we're not going to be in such a good place. But it's really just a patience game for me. As long as you can live frugal for a little while, you're going to get through it, and we'll see better times on the other side.
Awesome. Mariano, what are your thoughts?
So it's interesting. Essentially, what I think that happened like on the last cycle that never happened before is that the whole crypto economy got like so big essentially that now microeconomics essentially like matter, right? Because it's a huge amount that it represents. Maybe in the past it didn't matter that much because it was very small and it didn't in a way affect it. But I think that what happened now is essentially it got to a point where like how is the real market going affects how the crypto market is going. And I am like, of course, on the long term, I am optimistic about crypto, but I do believe that a recession is coming, and therefore essentially like believe that crypto will get down in the short to middle term essentially. Of course, blockchain, beyond a shadow of a doubt, is going to be the technology of the future, and we will use it more than ever. But in the short term, I'm not so optimistic about its price, essentially.
Got it. Okay, so you see more short-term pain ahead. So you're essentially probably not allocating any more into investments right now in the crypto space.
So essentially, I am actually pretty liquid. I have pretty much 80% of my portfolio in USDCs or like in stable coins. I'm doing staking now essentially. If I find an opportunity to farm some liquidity, I do it. I did it recently with a protocol called Bella that essentially would give me like 28% in yield with their token, whatever that's going to be valued at. And I also keep playing on on coins that are like so small. Then again, like they don't care about what the market is going. Even if crypto is going down, they might go up, like they may go sideways. It doesn't matter. It's all in the air. But like there's still some opportunities for that essentially.
Got it. So you still have your ear to the ground on opportunities despite the major overhang of the macro landscape.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm really waiting for an opportunity to just like go all in again, essentially, and buy 100 Ethereums or so and really prepare myself for the next cycle.
Got it.
I don't think that moment has arrived yet.
Fair enough. VJ, your thoughts, my man. And I know you have, let me kind of set the stage here a little bit for those that don't know VJ very well, but VJ has an extraordinary ability to understand not only macro, but really what's going on in the micro inside the crypto space as well. So I know you have a very holistic view of this, and obviously you running a digital asset hedge fund, kind of requires it. So what are your thoughts on both the market, maybe on a short and medium term?
Yeah, we have to first preface by saying none of what we are talking about here is financial advice. Yep. This is more about talking about markets, just friends having fun, and be smart about how you are investing your money. So before we look into the specifics of what's happening, it will be good to take a step back and just have the background tapestry of what we are looking at. So the first is the innovation never stops, right? Technological innovation never stops. It just keeps on continuing. And what is at one point in time is considered technology may not be considered technology anymore. For example, the technology in the 1920s where the railway companies, right? That is the technology. Technology is something that makes us, provides us tools to make us better, more efficient, etc. So the stock market run up in the 20s was partly driven by innovation at that point in time. What is innovation at that point in time? One is that the public begins to invest in the stock market, which was not possible before. Wall Street expands and banks begin to sell securities. Wall Street bankers and brokers, they are becoming celebrities. And that is kind of the background. And then the innovation at that point in time was all these railway companies. There were close to 1,000 different railway companies that were going public.
Sorry, I just want to make sure. Did you say railway? Is that what you're saying? Railway companies?
Railroad companies, yeah, railway companies. Yeah,
okay, got it. Okay.
Companies that are doing railroads. That was the cutting edge technology at that point in time. And that drove kind of the stock bubble of the 20s. And now we don't consider railways as technology anymore, right? Because technology is something that society wants, but they don't know how to get it yet, right? So that is technology. At one point in time, railroads was technology because society wanted railroad, but they don't know how to get it yet. So there were these technology companies that were manufacturing these rails and steel companies. All of this was driven by the innovation at that point in time. Similarly, 1990s, right? The technology at that point in time is internet, drove up the price of the stock assets. The stock market boom and bust of the late 90s into early 2000s was driven by the technology of internet. So the technology innovation never stops. However, people's speculative nature that when they come in touch with a new technology, it just sparks people's creativity and imagination. And the imagination is much bigger than what is actually possible. And that has happened in the blockchain industry also, in terms of being able to speculate on the price directly, right? It's two innovations happening at the same time. One, it's a fundamental innovation, and two is that this innovation people can participate in it by investing money. And once you have money involved, you have greed and other things that are accelerated. However, these periods go through a period of boom and bust, right? Railways went through a period of boom and bust, and now it's a mature market, and railways is not considered technology anymore, right? Internet went through a period of boom and bust, and in some ways, even though internet is considered technology, it's not technology anymore, in the sense that now it's society knows how to get internet, right? Now you have internet on your phone, you can get internet through different ways, and now it's a mature industry. And now we are thinking about how do you use these underlying technology to create other technology, right? We are using the underlying technology of internet to be able to create, Threads just launched, and we are now touching 75 million people just in 3 days, right? So that's a new app from Facebook. That is, again, another technology. You have the technology of internet, which is already there. And now people are interested in being able to connect with others. And I think Twitter is like 250 million or so users. Probably by the end of the year, if the growth continues, Threads will have more active users than Twitter, which will be an
Oh, by the
interesting
end of the
scenario.
week at this rate.
yeah, maybe if you need to see active users, there is initial excitement about a platform, but we'd have to see the active users, not just users who have signed up. So that is the background tapestry of what we are looking at. The blockchain innovation is a fundamental innovation, and that technology is not going to go away. It is going to continue. The price speculation, that's a different story. And Dominic, as you mentioned, we have never had Bitcoin go through a recession, right? Because from the time Bitcoin was born in a recession, but by the time Bitcoin launched, the Fed has already started its money printing. And we haven't really had a slowdown in money printing until last year. And we saw what happened when the slowdown of money printing started, when the Fed started tightening their balance sheet. We saw what happened to the price of Bitcoin. So we still have to see how Bitcoin behaves in a recession, as we don't have historical data around it.
Indeed. So there are some things, however, right, that you can look at through Onchain, right? I mean, one of the beautiful parts about crypto is it allows you to kind of see who owns what and how to track and monitor the money flows. So I know there's some things that you monitor that from that perspective, EJ. So has there been any kind of on-chain analytics, on-chain data that would give you maybe reasons to be optimistic or even reasons to be pessimistic in the short term?
So the on-chain side of things, one of the things that we are, we look at different metrics. And one of the metric that we look at is the inflow of new money coming into the space, right? Yes, there is innovation happening, but if you look at price action is purely driven by new money coming into the space, right? That's the end of story. If money leaves the space, the price of Bitcoin crashes, and the way that Bitcoin goes is all the other assets also go the same direction most of the time. So in terms of new money coming in, there is a lot of news that is coming around, like BlackRock. They filed to have a spot Bitcoin ETF, right? So the Bitcoin ETFs so far have not been spot Bitcoin ETFs. They're more of derivative products. ARK Invest, they also filed a spot Bitcoin ETF. We are closer than where we were 4 years ago to have a spot Bitcoin kind of approved by the SEC. However, with the recent instance that happened with the FTX, the SEC might be taking a slower approach, because they now are suing Coinbase, right? Like the SEC now claimed the report that came out on Friday that Coinbase knows that what they're offering were securities and they were still offering them. So we have to see. The FTX whole debacle kind of has a lot of people lost money in the process, and SEC wants to make sure that the investors are protected. So we might have a slower time for the approval process. The increase in price, where it went from like 25,000 to 30,000 in the last 2 weeks or so, is not from new money coming in, right? It's, if you look at the amount of Bitcoin purchased over $1 million, over $10 million, there hasn't been much activity. So which leads us to conclude that a lot of the money is just, a lot of the increase in price is because of the speculative nature of what's going to happen when BlackRock ETFs gets approved. So that is some things that we are seeing based on chain metrics.
Got it. And I think that the reason that a lot of people are optimistic, or specifically it's around BlackRock. BlackRock being, very politically connected. I mean, they pretty much have all the money in the world practically under assets under management. and they're an 800. If there were a 50,000 pound gorilla, they'd be a 50,000 pound gorilla. So the fact that it's BlackRock submitting it. Now, the interesting thing I think about that a little bit, well, before I get to that, I actually want to ask you, VJ, maybe kind of define a little bit about what a spot Bitcoin ETF is and why it's so important as an on-ramp for crypto for retail investors.
Yeah, so what has happened is, just a brief history. There are many people who have filed for a Bitcoin ETF. And one of the things that SEC mentioned in the rejecting of these ETFs were that how do you verify the price of Bitcoin, right? Is there a verified feed of the price of Bitcoin? And right now we don't have that price of Bitcoin because it's in multiple exchanges around the world, and there is lack of quality of data. So what instead, the ETFs that are approved are based on the option price of Bitcoin, because was it the CFTC open to trade Bitcoin, and the price of Bitcoin is available, and the data quality of that is much higher, or it's higher from the eyes of the SEC because it's through the existing ways in which they consume the data. So all the ETFs that are available right now use the same price feed, but it's a completely separate market. That market has no relationship to the price of what's happening in the spot market at all, because people can buy, if someone buys like $100 million of Bitcoin in the spot market, it will move the price of Bitcoin, right? Whereas in the other market, in the options market, you can buy $100 million of Bitcoin, it won't move the price directly. So that is almost a separate side bet market that's happening, but it's under the regulation of the SEC. Whereas a spot market Bitcoin ETF, what it means is that when people are buying and selling these Bitcoins, it's going to affect the price of Bitcoin, as it will remove liquidity of Bitcoin from the market.
Got it. And that's why it's also so important that from a retail perspective, the retail demand is going to remove liquidity from the market. So obviously that's going to dramatically impact price.
Yes.
Yes. So, and going back a little bit to Larry Fink, the CEO of BlackRock. Now he's even coming out publicly and talking in favorable terms about Bitcoin. And there's a part of me that's a little bit skeptical in that, because of how tied into Wallstreet he is, and obviously as Bitcoin started as like a referendum on the global financial system. So now you've got people, very big people, Jamie Dimon, Larry Fink, all these guys that are kind of luminaries on Wall Street that are now kind of starting to want to play in our sandbox. And I think there's a hesitation from some of us that like, hey, we don't want you in our sandbox. We want you in our sandbox, but we don't want you in our sandbox. So what do you kind of think about BlackRock coming into play in our sandbox? VJ, I'll throw it to you first. Or actually, Mariano, I think you have something.
Sorry, 1 second. I gotta say bye today, but it was a pleasure recording this first episode. Many more to come, and I'll see you around.
Awesome. Good to see you, comrade Mariano. Enjoy, buddy.
Cheers.
So VJ.
Yeah. So Larry Fink famously said that Bitcoin is an index of money laundering a few years ago, right? And then now talking about Bitcoin can revolutionize finance. So how do we go from being Saul to Paul, right? How do you go from that? There is a hump for being able to understand what this technology is, right? And that's the case for everyone. So there is an initial hump to be able to understand the technology. I went through the hump, right? You think that this is scam, this is purely a Ponzi mechanism. And there are pretty smart people like Warren Buffett, whom I admire and respect, not able to go over that hump, right? It takes some amount of effort to go over that hump. And it takes some effort, some intellectual searching to be able to go over the hump. And maybe Larry Fink has been able to have a deeper understanding of Bitcoin and cryptocurrency over the last 4 years. One. Number two, at the end of the day, Wallstreet doesn't care what the technology is. If you provide a way for them to be able to make money, then they will want to make that money, right? If you look at what happened with all these exchanges, right, like Binance and FTX, these exchanges were valued at billions of dollars because they were making millions of dollars in fees, and all that money is going to some other company and not to Wallstreet. And Wallstreet is in the business of being able to make fees on financial assets. That's their core business. And they will figure out a way for being able to make these fees on financial assets, including Bitcoin, right? So that is the bottom line, whether it's Blackrock who does it, or some other, like Fidelity also is doing it. There are so many of these financial institutions whose sole purpose is to make fees on transactions of financial assets. They're going to come into a game, and it's going to be a mature market. We need people like that. We need like proper regulations where it helps these innovative companies for being able to offer their service and provide a valuable service for customers in a way where in which they are not taken advantage of, because if you don't have regulatory clarity in the US, then you're going to have these companies setting up offshore, and that keeps it outside of the regulatory oversight of the SEC, FINRA, and other entities, which is not helpful for retail investors in the long run.
Which is interesting that we have all of this stuff, all this opposition to the existing kind of crypto exchange behemoths that are not named any of the firms on Wall Street, right? And you've got Chair Gensler, who we thought was going to be,
Hey, did you say Jerry?
A little bit more of a dove. Now he's a hawk, right? He's a crypto hawk, and he's, let's say, made no friends in our industry. And so you've got this really interesting dynamic going on in the US as it pertains to, them really opposing Binance, even Coinbase, suing Coinbase, right? And all of the major, stakeholders in the crypto space. And then you've got over here, simultaneously, Wall Street behemoths actually, filing for ETFs. It's just, to me, I'm trying not to put my tinfoil hat on here, but it just really, really reeks of something that is kind of against, as a more of a libertarian leaning philosophy, someone coming and wanting to play in our sandbox, but the way that it's being done just seems a little bit just not the way that I would want to see it happen or occur.
I guess I'm like the optimistic one in the room, because I didn't really have to go through that Bitcoin hump of understanding it. It took me like a day and a half, and I'm like, hell yeah, let's go. And also, I really think like the whole recession talk, I think the recession is priced in already for our space here. We might go lower, we might go to 20K, but you think that's going to last for more than a blip? People are frothing at the mouth to get in, and now that we have these institutions coming in, they're not gonna let that price go too low before buying it up. Every time some retail sells Bitcoin, an institution is putting it in their pocket, and I think also there's not enough Bitcoin available. So really, when people start buying, price moves quicker than you think.
And not only that, but when price drops suddenly, it doesn't stay there, right?
That's the blip.
Let's look at 2020 as an example, right? Went from 6K to 3K in a day. It didn't stay at 3K. It popped right back, right? And so, granted, that's a one-off, but anytime we've seen major liquidity events go on in this space, it gets bought up. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
So there are demand zones, right? I don't necessarily see us going from a Bitcoin from where it's at to a 13,000 to a 10,000 to an 8,000, like some people speculate.
You guys think the bottom is in? Like we're not going to go lower than what is it, 15, 16?
I mean, if you look at technically right now, we just broke a zone. We broke a resistance zone right around 30 actually, and it's consolidating. So, what it's doing here is it actually looks good from a technical perspective. Not that we're going to go start showing charts right now, but from a technical perspective, things look good. Now there are the considerations VJ's talking about, the macro overhang. To a degree, we need to evaluate how much of that is priced in. Right? How much is priced in? Everybody's talking about recession. I'd like to think that everybody, generally what happens is the stock market actually starts coming back out of the recession before the recession is officially over, right? So it's a forward leading indicator. And recession is a lagging indicator. I mean, like we could be in a recession right now, and then 6 months from now they say, oh, we're in a recession. Well, the actual definition of a recession is two declining GDP quarters, right, in a row, right? Well, by that very definition, it has to be a lagging indicator. So I tend to agree with you, Michael, on that, in that, by and large part, the whole recession thing is already priced in. However, if there's a black swan event, or if there's another shoe to drop or anything like that, that's outside of the realm of anything that we have.
I mean, COVID was like a black swan event. And again, it didn't last for too long when we went down.
Right.
I think people forget quicker than you think. And or retail rather, they forget about all the bad stuff real fast. And they're very quick to come in when a little bit of good news starts, or when they see, like you said, like the markets start moving, they want to jump on board.
Yeah, the Sir John Templeton, right, famously said bull markets are born on pessimism, right? They grow on skepticism, mature on optimism, and die on euphoria, right? So we are right now, there is pessimism, right? People are saying, oh, we are in a bear market, right? Like, no, so that is simply means that the next bull market is born in the next bull market, right, is born in the bear market. And we are very, at least like overall, right, there is a lot of pessimism, skepticism around the recession talks, and what the Fed is going to do. There is always a case to be made for that this time is different. In COVID, the Fed had the ammo to be able to print almost 50% of all the money that we have ever printed from the beginning of the Federal Reserve. We did that in about 3-4 months or so. And we have exhausted the bullet. I don't know if we have any additional bullet in store, like, in our reserve, so to speak, to be able to use. The interest rate also, right? We had the steepest rise in interest rate. So there are, few other things that are not what we have seen before, at least as it relates to Bitcoin. So it just causes a pause. Do agree, do appreciate your your optimistic nature, Michael. And optimists are the people who end up, making things happen. We have this part of our brain that has evolved over millions of years that trains us to be pessimistic. And I'm long-term optimistic. However, in the short term, I'm still pessimist in the short term.
Well, let's kind of before we pack it in here for our first inaugural podcast episode for everybody, I would say that what's interesting from the Fed perspective is that they recently just paused, right? So that pause, is that a pivot? That pause, is it really what Jerome Powell says it is, which is, hey, we're just pausing right now, but there's 2 more rate hikes on the table for the rest of the year. And maybe that language is just there just so that the market doesn't do what he doesn't want it to do, which is inflate some more. Because they have a dual mandate, and that's 2% annual inflation and low unemployment, right? So coincidentally, what's interesting, ironic about that is that they really need unemployment to go higher so that they can stymie off that inflation rate and get inflation to a lower 2% degree, and how they're doing that is through manipulating unemployment. But unemployment hasn't gone up significantly. So there could be more rate hikes on the table. Or is he really just saying, we're going to tell you that there's more rate hikes on the table so that the market doesn't go up, and so we don't have to pivot right now? So, and is this really a pivot? Is it not a pause, and is it a pivot? Because I think all of us in crypto, we would love for it to be a pivot so that we can, put the punch bowl back at the party and start partying again. So from that perspective, VJ, what do you make of his recent, the Fed's recent stance on pausing?
So there are many of the instruments in the financial market that are breaking, right? The Fed is by controlling the interest rate is almost like a tanker ship, and the tanker ship needs to be turned very slowly, whereas the Fed turned it really, really fast, right? We are heading in one direction, and they turned the cranks of the ship to go in a different direction in a way in which we have never done it in a history, right? This is not a sports car or a jet ski that you can just like whip around. And 5,000% increase in interest rate in a year. We have never seen that before. And we are starting to see some of the cracks appear in the market. The bank failure is one such thing. We saw the collapse of Silicon Valley Bank, like now Signature Bank, the First Bank, all of them collapsed. And if you look at the dollar value, it's bigger dollar value compared to what happened in 2008 when 53 banks collapsed, right? But in terms of dollar value, the impact that happened is much bigger. Wallstreet Journal did a report, 175 banks are now underwater. And banking industry, which is one of the core reason how crypto started, relies on fractional reserve banking, which is purely based on trust, right? The bank doesn't really have the money that we deposited in there. And that's the nature of fractional reserve banking. It only works when there is trust, meaning that when people are not withdrawing money from the bank, but any bank, if it has a bank run, it's going to collapse. It happened in Silicon Valley Bank. If it happens to any other bank, it is going to collapse. There is no question about it. So these 175 banks that are underwater, if people still trust in them, the game is going to continue. If they don't trust in them, if there is a bank run, it's going to collapse. So that's what's happening right now. And we'll have to see how we come out of this.
Well, what's interesting about that is I think it could trigger a short-term liquidity crisis, which then what's the Fed going to do? They're going to step in and they're going to monetize the losses, right? So then you turn on the money printer and then everything just goes up only again, right? So it's just this game that keeps going on, and your ability to time that is very, very difficult. It's extraordinarily difficult to be able to time that and to have liquidity to be able to actually do something rather than, doing what most crypto investors do, which is be all in all the time. Yeah, anyways, that's I appreciate your insight on that, VJ. Michael, do you have anything to add on that before we put a bow on today's session?
No, I think that's pretty good for today.
Yeah, this is fun,
awesome,
guys. I'm glad we did this. This was great.
We did it.
Yeah. Rock and roll. Well, we want to thank everyone for being here, and make sure you hit the like button, subscribe.
Oh my God, we're going to do the like and subscribe thing.
Yeah, like and subscribe, baby. It's down here, right?
I hope we never do the like and subscribe. Every episode, we don't have to tell people, like and subscribe.
Like and subscribe. So thank you everyone for participating and watching, and we'll see you on the next one.
All right. Bye.
Later, boys.